I never thought a Tuesday morning could turn my world upside down. My 3-year-old, little Ava, had been unusually quiet while I typed away on a mountain of reports. I thought she was playing with her toys, but in a blink, I realized she was gone. Panic surged. I was in the middle of preparing for a crucial presentation for my billionaire boss, Mr. Harrison Vale, one of the most intimidating men I had ever met. I rushed down the hall, heart pounding, calling her name. That's when I saw it. The polished mahogany doors of Mr. Vale's office were slightly ajar, and through the gap, I could see Ava standing there, smiling innocently, pointing at something on his desk. I froze. My mind screamed at me, "No, she can't go in there." But before I could reach her, Mr. Vale, a man whose reputation alone made employees quake, looked up from his chair. And then he saw her. Ava's tiny hand reached for a glittering object on his desk, a crystal globe I had been told was worth more than my apartment. Mr. Vale's eyes widened, not with anger, but shock. His usual sharp, unreadable expression melted into something else entirely. Curiosity, maybe even awe. I stumbled in, trying to apologize, my voice catching in my throat. "I'm so sorry, Ava. I don't know how she..." But Ava interrupted me with a question so simple, so innocent, that even Mr. Vale paused. "Why is this your special ball, mister?" It was just a 3-year-old asking a question, yet the room went silent. Mr. Vale knelt slightly, bringing himself to her eye level, and for the first time, I saw him softened. He didn't scold. He didn't yell. He just smiled. I wanted to grab her and flee, but something in his gaze made me stop. There was a pause, a tension so heavy it pressed down on the polished floor, and I realized, my little girl had just done what I never could, she had caught his full attention. Then he said something that made me freeze. "Well, you've got courage, little one. I like that." I could barely process it. My boss, a man known for being unapproachable, intimidating, and impossibly wealthy, was complimenting my toddler. My mind raced. Was this really happening? Did Ava just stun him? And just like that, I felt the weight of the moment. One choice, my choice, could change everything. CTA. If you were in my position, what would you do? Would you rush in and grab your child immediately, risking his anger? Or stay still and see why your little girl had just stopped a man like him in his tracks? I didn't know it then, but that moment would change everything. I couldn't believe what was happening. Mr. Vale, the man whose reputation alone made everyone in the office tense, was kneeling on the floor talking to my 3-year-old. Ava, completely unaware of the power she held in that moment, giggled as she traced her tiny fingers over the edge of his desk. "What's this shiny thing?" she asked, pointing at a stack of documents and a silver pen that looked more like a work of art than a tool. Mr. Vale chuckled, a rare, warm sound that I had only ever heard in passing. "Ah, that's my thinking pen," he said, wiggling it in his hand. "It helps me come up with big ideas." Ava's eyes sparkled. "I want a thinking pen too." My heart skipped. I wanted to laugh, but at the same time, fear gripped me. This man didn't know us, and here we were, intruding on his private world. Yet, instead of anger, he seemed amused, intrigued even. I slowly stepped closer, trying to assess the situation without panicking. My mind raced. Should I pull her out now? Should I apologize? Or should I wait and see what happens? Mr. Vale glanced at me, and in his eyes, I saw the flicker of a question. He was curious about why Ava was there, why she hadn't screamed or run, why she had the audacity to wander into the den of one of the most powerful men in the city. "You have a brave daughter," he said, his tone almost thoughtful. "Not many would just stroll in here like that." I swallowed hard. Brave. Audacious. Foolish. My mind was a whirl of conflicting emotions. This man, who commanded millions and ran empires, was entertained by my child's innocence. My instinct screamed at me to leave, to run, to make excuses. But something kept me rooted to the spot. Then, the moment that froze me in place, Ava picked up a small, leather-bound notebook from the corner of his desk. She opened it and, in her own toddler way, started pointing at numbers and sketches. "I'm drawing too, mister," she said. Mr. Vale leaned back in his chair, observing her like a strategist watching a chessboard. I see potential, he murmured. My pulse raced. Potential. In my child. From this man. I had no idea what that meant. And yet, there was an undeniable tension building. He wasn't just amused, he was assessing, evaluating, thinking about what she might bring into his world. I felt a swell of protectiveness. This was my daughter, my responsibility. And yet, I couldn't ignore the strange pull of this moment. Something was shifting, something bigger than both of us, and it all began with a tiny hand reaching for a pen. CTA. If you were in my position, what would you do? Would you step forward and apologize, taking your child away from this powerful man? Or stay silent and let the moment unfold, seeing what might come of your child's bravery? I didn't know it then, but that small choice would ripple into something none of us could have expected. The office was silent, except for the soft scratching of Ava's crayon on the notebook. I could feel every second stretching, my heart pounding as I watched Mr. Vale lean back, fingers steepled, studying her with an intensity that made my stomach twist. You know, he finally said, his voice calm but deliberate, most people would have pulled their children away by now. But you let her explore. I swallowed hard, unsure whether to feel proud or embarrassed. I didn't want to startle her, I managed to say. He nodded slowly, his piercing eyes fixed on both of us. Curiosity is powerful. It tells you who is bold enough to take risks and smart enough to notice opportunities. I took a cautious step closer, trying to keep the moment under control. But Mr. Vale's gaze wasn't just assessing Ava. It was assessing me, my decisions, my instincts, my courage. You have a sharp little one, he continued. And clearly, you're doing something right in raising her. My chest tightened. Compliments from this man were rare currency. His approval felt heavy with meaning, almost like a test I hadn't agreed to take. Then, in a tone that made my heart lurch, he said something I never expected. Tell me, do you ever consider letting her experience more? More challenges? More chances to grow in ways others wouldn't imagine? I blinked, confused. What did he mean? I had only brought her here by accident. And yet, his words carried an offer. Or was it a challenge? Ava, oblivious to the tension, handed him the notebook. Here. I drew a house for you. Mr. Vale's expression softened ever so slightly. A house, and maybe a future architect, he murmured, almost to himself. Then, with a surprising urgency, he looked directly at me. I think I want to help her discover that potential. Are you willing to let me? My mind spun. Let him. Let a billionaire, someone I barely knew, guide my 3-year-old in ways I couldn't control? My maternal instinct screamed no. Yet, something inside me whispered yes, a tiny spark of curiosity, of opportunity, of trust in his unexpected gentleness. Time seemed to freeze. I could feel the weight of the decision pressing on me, the gravity of a choice that had suddenly become far bigger than me or Ava alone. And in that pause, I realized this wasn't just about a child wandering into an office. It was about trust, risk, and a path I had never imagined. CTA. If you were in my shoes, what would you do? Would you protect your child and leave immediately, returning to the safety of what you know? Or accept the unknown and see where this billionaire's unexpected interest might lead? I didn't know it then, but the decision I was about to make would change not only Ava's life, but mine, in ways I couldn't yet see. The office felt smaller somehow, as if the walls themselves were holding their breath. Ava was quietly playing at my feet, but I could barely focus on her innocence. Mr. Vale's gaze followed every movement of ours, calculating, deliberate, almost predatory in a way that sent a shiver down my spine. I want you to understand something, he said, rising and walking toward a massive wall of glass shelves. Behind it were models, papers, awards, and something else. My eyes caught glimpses of thick folders marked confidential in bold letters. Everything I do, everything I've built, comes with risks. Some obvious, some hidden, he said, his voice low, almost conspiratorial. He pulled out one of the folders and handed it to me. I think it's time you saw the other side of what I manage. I froze. The folder felt heavier than it should have, both in weight and in implication. My mind screamed at me to hand it back, to retreat to the safety of my office and Ava's school, but curiosity, a dangerous mix of fear and fascination, tugged at me. He watched me carefully. "You've seen her stop me in my tracks," he said, nodding toward Ava. "That wasn't just luck. You've got instincts, and so does she. I need to know if you can handle what comes next." I opened the folder with trembling hands. Inside were contracts, investment plans, and documents detailing high-stakes acquisitions, some in industries I barely recognized, and others with shadowy, almost clandestine dealings. My stomach dropped. These weren't illegal, not overtly, but they were risky, bordering on the sort of decisions that could make or break empires overnight. Mr. Vale leaned against his desk, watching my reaction. Most people would panic. Most people would walk out and never return. But not her, and not you. I looked at Ava, who was now drawing a little figure that seemed to smile at both of us from her notebook. Her tiny hands, her innocent curiosity, it reminded me why I was here, why I had stayed calm when others might have shouted or stormed out. "You see," he continued, "success is a choice, just like trust. You can either hide from risk, or you can embrace it, and sometimes, you need to involve the next generation in making those choices." I closed the folder slowly, weighing every word. Every fiber of my being screamed caution, yet part of me couldn't ignore the spark of potential, both in Ava and in myself. Choice moment. If you were in my place, would you step further into a world you barely understand, risking everything for growth and opportunity? Or would you protect your child and walk away, keeping life simple and safe? I didn't know it then, but whatever decision I made in that moment would define not just our next hour, but our lives forever. I took a deep breath, feeling Ava tug gently at my hand. Her innocent eyes were fixed on Mr. Vale, unafraid, curious, almost as if she understood something I didn't yet. The weight of the folder in my arms suddenly felt lighter. Perhaps it wasn't just about the documents, it was about decisions, courage, and trust. Mr. Vale's gaze softened slightly. "You've been watching, learning. Now it's time to act." I looked around his office, at the world of power and calculated moves, and then at my child, whose small hand held mine as firmly as my heart held hers. The decision wasn't just about career, money, or ambition. It was about balance, values, and legacy. I'll do it," I said finally, my voice steady, though my heart raced. "I'll take the step, but only if Ava is safe. Only if I can teach her the right way to navigate this world." He nodded, a flicker of approval in his eyes. Wise. Most adults forget the first rule. Power without purpose is empty. You understand that instinctively. And that girl of yours. She's a prodigy in patience, timing, and observation. That's rare. Ava clapped softly, as if celebrating an invisible victory. Mr. Vale smiled, a rare warmth breaking through his otherwise imposing demeanor. "Then let's begin," he said. "Together." He guided us through the office, showing us projects in motion, negotiations in progress, and the human side of decisions that often seemed cold on paper. I realized then that this billionaire, intimidating, meticulous, enigmatic, wasn't just a man of wealth. He was a man who measured value in choices, integrity, and impact. Hours passed like minutes. Each interaction revealed lessons about trust, responsibility, and the ripple effects of even the smallest decision. Ava laughed at something on his computer screen, a small moment of pure joy, and I felt a relief wash over me. The office no longer seemed intimidating, it seemed alive, full of potential, and strangely, welcoming. Choice moment. If you were in my place, would you embrace this path, risking comfort and certainty for growth and influence? Or would you step back, choosing the safety of the known, leaving curiosity and opportunity unexplored? I didn't know it then, but that single decision, the choice to step forward, would alter our lives forever. Not because of money, or prestige, or even power, but because it taught me, and my child, that courage isn't about recklessness. It's about trust, observation, and embracing the moment when the world challenges you. As we left the office that evening, hand in hand, Ava looked up at me and whispered, "We did it, Mommy." And in her voice, I heard the echo of possibility, adventure, and the unshakable truth. Sometimes, the smallest person can change the course of everything, if you dare to follow their lead. CTA. Fire choice moment. If you were me right now, would you confront him and demand an explanation, or quietly follow my child to see what is discovered? White right pointing backhand index comment below with your choice. Your decision could have changed everything in this moment.